Abigail and Alexa Save the Wedding is a story of a wedding, but it's told from the point of view of the mother of the bride and the mother of the groom. So it is not a rom-com. It's, you meet the bride and groom, you get to know their families, but it's really a social satire of the wedding industrial complex, kind of how weddings have just become these giant, unwieldy, super expensive things. And sometimes you forget like what's at the heart of that. It's love and family and commitment and moving forward and creating a new family. So, but Abigail is the mother of the groom. She's sort of an uptight woman from Connecticut. They have not benefited from generational wealth, and they're slowly losing their fortune, drip, drip, drip. And Alexa is a single mother by choice who lives in Montecito, California. She's never been married. She doesn't really believe in it, has no idea why her daughter is getting married whatsoever. And these two mothers from different coasts and different backgrounds have to come together to save the wedding when complications incur. I started with the premise that everybody at the wedding has an agenda. Whether it's to show off, if you're the parents of the bride, maybe it's to show off their success, or it's to have the wedding they never had, I think is very common. It's to kind of, show off how fancy your family is versus the other family, maybe not so fancy. I think the maid of honor may have an agenda. Maybe she's looking for a husband, or she doesn't want to be treated like a servant, like a lot of brides treat their maids of honor. I mean, I started to look around. It's like everybody at a wedding has an agenda, even if it's just, I'm going to get up and tell an embarrassing story about my sister as a toast, which is a horrible thing to do. But like, maybe that's what they're really going to get back at her for that. So I thought that was interesting to kind of look around and see what people might want to get out of this particular wedding. But I do think you hit the nail on the head. I think particularly for parents who are paying for the wedding, they feel like they are entitled to plan the wedding. And what I know now, because I am of the age where a lot of my friends' kids are getting married, is very often you don't even get any guests you want at the wedding. Like, you hand the kids a check, the kids who are 30, and they don't want your friends at the wedding. They want their friends at the wedding. They don't want you to wear that dress. They want you to wear this dress. Like, they don't want the mother of the groom showing up the mother of the bride on the first dance because they do a choreographed number. I mean, I have seen headline after headline. So, but I do think a lot of it comes down to either like, we're paying for this, so we're entitled to tell you what to do. There's a natural psychology of not wanting to let go of your daughter, or thinking you know more than your daughter or your son. I think a lot of parents are guilty about that. And then I do think also the wedding you never had is one of those weird psychological things that some mothers have going on. But I did really think a lot about it because, again, this is a book about the two mothers, how they deal with this and what kind of stuff this all brings up for them. The center of it is the idea that the mother of the bride and the mother of the groom have to be at war over things, have to disagree. I really wanted to write a book that sort of turned that on its head, that even if you're not, two women don't have to be best friends, but they can still work together is sort of my personal mantra. It's something I've experienced in my professional life for 30 years. So this idea that there was like going to be a battle between these two mothers is something I wanted to play around with for sure. The other thing is just like this idea of the social media wedding versus an actual wedding. The idea of everything must be perfect and Instagrammable, or else, it's some sort of failure. And that ends up sort of upending the bride in this particular one, so that everything has to be monogrammed, and there has to be like 6 parties, and there has to be 80 bridesmaids. It's just, when you look at these weddings, it's just unbelievable the level of detail that goes into the matchbooks and the monogram jackets, and everybody needs a pashmina, and everybody needs flip-flops, and there has to be favors, and there's the brunch after. It's exhausting. It's exhausting, and it's a fortune. So I had fun doing all of that. I have been a lifelong sort of wedding fan in general. I grew up reading the New York Times wedding announcements. Like, it was my favorite thing to read at the breakfast table growing up. I love reading about weddings. Of complete and total strangers. And so that was important to me to sort of incorporate that level. And so one of the characters is a former New York Times wedding announcement writer who's now a wedding etiquette expert. And so I have the storyline of the family of Abigail and Alexa and the bride and the groom and all the other side characters. But then you get these actual columns from Aunt B, the wedding expert, about all that people write into her. So she answers all kinds of questions about seating arrangements and who pays for this and blah, blah, blah. Because I think the grudges created by weddings last the longest of any family grudge. I mean, whoo, you either have a great wedding or you have issues, because Reddit is just the threads on Reddit about like worst wedding I've ever been to, worst wedding guest of all time, worst mother of the bride. Oh, I could still be there reading them. I loved it. I loved it.